Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. I know we're the last session of the day, so hugely appreciated that you've hung on for the travel retail session. Today we're going to do a bit of future gazing, looking at emerging trends, emerging markets, just sort of ideas to keep an eye out for the future, really. You can see the Americas, 5.6%. That very much includes Latin America. North America is growing at even a slower pace than Europe. Middle East is really bubbling away as a powerhouse, and finally Africa is picking up. Just a quick breakdown of categories. Traditionally, duty-free has always been about liquor and tobacco, getting your cheap booze and cigarettes when you travel abroad. Ever since abolition of duty-free about 15 years ago, everyone's been much more creative in what they do, and perfumes and cosmetics really is now the top driver. And I just wanted to outline some challenges and opportunities in brief. These will be explored much later in many of our speakers' presentations. First of all, slow economic recovery, particularly in Europe. Passenger numbers continue to, well, in many airports, they're not going as fast as other parts of the world, but we've got some excellent examples today where passenger numbers are going well. Political instability, as you well know, very difficult one to call. Middle East and North Africa is an obvious example, but we need to keep an eye out things like protests in Brazil and Turkey, where these things are going to go. One bag rule and liquids and gas restrictions. For example, travelling back from Brazil recently, wanted to bring back a litre bottle of cachaça, but because I was transiting in Lisbon, not allowed. Passengers, that's affecting duty-free where they can buy things and where they can take them. And a general lack of consumer understanding, I think. What are these travel retail exclusives? Why are things perceived as being more expensive? Why can I not get this in domestic market? I think we all need to work together a bit more to explain a few more things, then sales can really continue to bubble away. And finally, legislation. Tobacco at the moment, we've seen allowances cut on flights in and out of Australia. You know from domestic markets there's been a huge clampdown on things like packaging and display. What we need to be aware of as travel retail is it's tobacco today. What's it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be wine and spirits? Is it going to be confectionery? The Tax Free World Association has set up their Duty-Free World Council, which is fantastic. They're brilliant at lobbying. We as an industry need to continue to get behind them in order to protect our business. Next, we've got huge opportunities alongside those challenges. We're going to be discussing technology in detail a bit more, but today we've got the opportunity to really meet passengers from the time of booking right the way up to when they travel, in the airport, after their flight, following up at home. Hugely exciting. We've got increasingly sophisticated consumers. They know their brands. They're often connoisseurs in their subject. It's not like we have to tell them what they want to buy anymore. We need to meet their expectations. And retailers that do that, they're going to be fine. And finally, emerging markets, which is what I really want to touch on very briefly. As coined by The Economist, we've got Colombia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Egypt, Turkey, and South Africa. But first, a very short quiz just to make sure everyone's still awake at the end of the day. All that's required is a show of hands. So, what do you think is the average life expectancy in the world today as a whole? So, A, 50 years. Hands up if you think 50 years could be the average life expectancy. 3 people there. B, 60 years. And finally, C, 70. It's actually 70 years. I missed out on the banner today. Credit to these guys. Yeah, it's hugely brilliant, actually, how life expectancy has grown. According to the World Health Organization, global life expectancy in 2011 was 70 years. Obviously, there's huge variance in that. From low-income countries, you're looking at 60, high-income countries, 80. But just a short illustration of how the world has changed. Now, I know this graphic's come out a bit small for those at the back. We've got 3 curves, each showing the present income distribution on the world as a whole today. Obviously, quick average snapshot. A, you've got the curve there. B, you've got a curve in the middle. And C, you've got a bit of a double dip curve going on. So again, hands up for A. No one? Hands up for B. Hands up for C. That's not really good voting. Only one person voted. Oh, you're still thinking. Okay, we'll do it once more. A, hands up for A. B, few thoughts, and C. Okay, marginally better. It's actually B. So both these 2 questions here just demonstrate how much the world has changed. We no longer can really think in terms of rich and poor. We've got middle income countries, low middle income, high middle income, top middle income. And with that, obviously, we've got these huge growing middle classes that really getting involved in travel retail. And finally, part 3 of my quiz. In the world as a whole, men aged from 35 upwards spent a total of 8 years in school. For women, do they spend 3 years? Hands up for 3 years? 5 years? And 7 years? You're right, 7 years. And huge progress has been made in the area of women's education. Just to give a quick example, women's literacy levels now largely equal that of men's around the world. This is according to Media Post. And what's most exciting about this is that women now account for up to 85% of purchasing decisions around the world. So this is relevant to all sorts of retail here today, and even categories that are particularly thought of as being men's. So cars, home improvement projects, and consumer electronics. 50% of those decisions are now made by women. So when we're putting together our retail offer, we've really got to think, is this going to appeal to women around the world? Right, very quick rundown of the civics countries and why they're important to travel retail. First of all, Colombia. So GDP 4% in 2012, exceeding forecast, which is very exciting. Bogota El Dorado Airport, 22.5 million passengers. That's the 3rd biggest airport across the whole of Latin America. Huge airport development projects, as you can see. And finally, just a quick rundown of the top international routes there. Within the top 10, you've got Miami, Madrid, New York. Also, Mexico City and Sao Paulo, huge population centres. You've got people coming in and out of that airport that not only have got spending power, there's loads and loads of them. Right. Next, Indonesia. This is immensely exciting. Just last week, the government announced that they are, for the first time, going to allow foreign investment into their ports and airports, up to 100% in international cases. So that's huge policy change. It's going to completely shape the development of that country's airport infrastructure. GDP slowing slightly, but by all accounts, it's going to pick up. Another hugely exciting point, along with the allowance of foreign investment. The country's consuming middle class currently stands at 45 million. This is going to triple by 2030. This means that Indonesia's middle classes is going to be the 3rd biggest middle class population in the world. So if you're not already thinking Indonesia is the way to go for travel retail, it really is. Vietnam, GDP 5%. In Europe, we might think GDP 5%, fantastic, I'll have that, thank you very much. In Vietnam, this is actually slowing, but according to Gulf One Bank, everyone's expecting, this to pick up hugely. Passenger volume in Vietnam has risen from 6 million in 2000 to 52 million, and that curve is set to continue. Number of expansion projects underway. One to really draw attention to is the Civil Aviation Administration of Vietnam announced last month they're going to open 4 new coastal airports. That's an investment of over 8 billion. So they've got the growth and they're planning on doing something with it. Egypt, as you may well know, pretty impossible to call. But despite the ongoing political tensions, there are huge airport developments going on at Cairo. You've still got a lot of Russian and German passengers travelling to Hurghada and Sharm el-Sheikh. And this week, I think just yesterday, Euromoney held their conference on Egypt, and by all accounts, it is going to pick up. It's just hard to call when and I suppose. Turkey, hugely exciting market, hugely diverse, hugely growing. It's Europe's fastest growing aviation market. There's plans to build the world's largest airport there, which is due to open in the next decade or so. Capacity, once it's fully operational, will be 150 million passengers. That is huge. And finally, for my super fast civics roundup, we've got South Africa. Again, this is a difficult market to call. It's so diverse. There's so much inequality there. However, Johannesburg, Cape Town and Durban, all in the top 10 airports for the entire continent, is going to be huge. And it's the fastest growing air market in Africa. So when you're thinking Middle East and Africa, South Africa is a place to be. Fantastic. So that was a very quick introduction. And I'm going to hand over to Lisa from Copenhagen Airports for her presentation. Thanks.
So thank you for the invitation. What I'm going into will be a little bit different from the CVA countries because we have a lot of passengers, 23 million passengers a year in Copenhagen Airport, but mostly not necessarily exactly those passengers are the biggest groups of passengers. Anyway, let me start my presentation. My name is Lisa Rivert. I am a Director of Airport Sales, meaning I'm responsible for developing the airport shopping center in Copenhagen Airport. In an airport, there are 3 drivers for doing retail. One is the passenger footfall. This is historically probably the thing that airports has been most responsible for and felt most responsible for developing, because lots of passengers, of course, means lots of sales. But there are a couple of other drivers. There's the dwell time that each passenger would have in the airport. The higher the dwell time, the higher sales. And there is then the passenger relevance that the retail or the food and beverage units would have towards the passengers. Now, historically, airports, as I said, they would go into developing the passenger footfall. Today and during the last 3-4 years, Copenhagen Airport has been much more focused on developing the dwell time, so securing that security queues are not too long, securing that passengers would come through without being stressed so that they are ready to shop, and even more the passenger relevance of what is actually in the airport. So when you come airside, what retail offers, what food and beverage offers are there, and are we covering the needs of all passengers? This could be luxury goods, but it also has to be other goods that other passengers would be needing. So how do we then deliver that, and how do we do it in Copenhagen Airport? Well, we do have, since 2010, we have worked very much internally in the group to become much more a host than a landlord. So we want to make the passengers feel as guests instead of as passengers. And we do take responsibility that really happens. Our concessionaires, we don't talk to them as concessionaires, and we don't mention them internally as concessionaires. We talk to them as business partners, because only together we can actually build business further than it is today. And this is really very important for us. And the way that we then work together with our business partners is to look into these 3 main drivers, you could say. So, of course, we work to get more shoppers. We want to get more shoppers to pass by each shop. And the way we can get more shoppers into the shops is, as I said, to secure that they are not stuck in check-in or they are not stuck in security lines. We can reduce the stress by making it easy for them to find their way to the gates, make it easy for them to know what gate to walk through, because until they know what gate they are going to, they will not start shopping, because they will be stressed and they will be wanting to find out where am I going. So this is a way to get more shoppers, but also to get more spend out of each shopper. And how do we do that? Well, here we work a lot to secure the best shop and brand mix. So the best brands, the right brands, we look at our passengers, we research each passenger, we talk to them to hear what is the potential, where are we missing out on sales. And when we get that potential right, of course, we start correcting the shop and brand mix. This is how to get more money out of each passenger. Also, we share a lot passenger details with our partners, business partners, so that they can optimize each and every store so that it matches the passenger needs. We would also tell them, for example, a fashion store, if a fashion store had far too much business suits, we could easily tell them and help them to introduce travel retail into their stores and into their brands, because a business traveler would typically not have time to try out the business suits, but they would love to have a wide variety of shirts. They know their size, it's easy to pick from a shelf, and they will go for 3 for 2 or 4 for the price of 3, and they would sell like hotcakes. So this is a kind of business partnership that we would have, and this is what we believe would give more spend. And the third thing, we want each of the passengers then to shop even more often. And one of the things that we are doing here to execute very good marketing, very good PR. So we work together with the business partners to see what are new products, what are new launches, are there any exclusive things that we could work together to introduce via media or via our marketing different platforms that we do have. And furthermore, we built lately and launched lately a loyalty program where all passengers to get free Wi-Fi have to go in. Today we have 450,000 members, and that's within only 2 years since we launched it. And by this program, we can actually start now communicating personalized to each of the passengers within this program. So when we know that they are happy with the shirts from Hugo Boss, we can tell them when there's an offer. This is a way to get shoppers or to get the passengers to shop even more often. So I talked about the passenger or the brand, the shop and brand mix. For us, there are two things here. We need to get the brands right. For us, there are the international major brands that are very important, and there's the local hero brands, so the downtown local heroes, that is very important. For especially the international guests, the local heroes becomes very important. Maybe you know it yourself as a passenger or as a traveler, that when you come to another country, the feel of the sense of place, the feel of getting there, the feel of taking something with you home to your family or to your friends, which is local, is quite important. So we are very keen on promoting not only brands that are local, but also our wooden flooring, which gives the Scandinavian feel, the architecture, the design that gives a Scandinavian feel, to keep that clear. But also brand-wise, to have those Scandinavian brands to give the sense of place. That's meant for our international passengers. For the Scandinavian passengers, they are less excited about a local brand from downtown Denmark, but they are excited about Copenhagen Airport being their first step into the world. And we need to even focus harder on that by having Starbucks, by having some of the major international brands presented. So this is part of our strategy. And going even further than talking about, I won't go into that, I told you already about our loyalty program, which is meant for our Scandinavian passengers that are frequent flyers. I think the international guests going in even into further that, I have one example that Christiana would like me to talk about, and that's initiatives that we are doing towards our Chinese passengers. Within 2012, 2013, we have been developing a program to really welcome sincerely and in an extraordinary way the Chinese passengers. Chinese are the biggest spenders in Copenhagen Airport. They're spending 6 times more than an average passenger in Copenhagen Airport. And we see that the number of passengers is growing strongly. I think they have a party next door. I hope you stay, even though it sounds very funny in there. So they are very important for us, and we know that in future they will be even more important. They are growing, the number of Chinese passengers traveling is growing. So as you can see some of these numbers, we expect to have much more passengers in the future from China, for what reason we thought it would be good to start developing. Now, in some of our stores already today, we see that 50% of the turnover in some of the high-end luxury stores is coming from Chinese passengers. And this is even though only 0.5% of our passengers in Copenhagen Airport are Chinese, 0.5%. And 50% of some of the stores' turnover comes from these passengers. So it is becoming a very important group of people, and we want to welcome them. Now, it's not that easy necessarily for Scandinavians to welcome Chinese people in the right way, because they don't necessarily understand the culture. So one of the things that we launched this year, how do we cater them? We are training them to meet their demands. We launched this year CPH Retail Academy, CPH Retail Academy is a place where we train and we give the offer to each shop employee to come get trained in sales, but even more in service, to get to know the different international guests that we welcome in the airport. And it's very different from what people might experience downtown. We did lately. We just launched a Chinese app for Chinese passengers. Chinese passengers love to plan their travel. They love to plan their way through an airport. They love to plan also the shopping before they leave their own country. So on this app, you can actually see what the shopping is like. You can see your way through. You can see departures, arrivals, general information on check-in, etc. So this has been important for us. Furthermore, we have good wayfinding. So when you land in Copenhagen Airport, the areas where the Chinese people would come in, there would be signage in Chinese to welcome them and tell them what to do. And furthermore, we do brochures and folders to tell them what is relevant for them to know when they come to a Copenhagen airport. And of course, this brochure is not just a copy of a normal brochure for Copenhagen Airport. It's severely just put together to give the Chinese passengers exactly what they want. Also, we did hire Chinese guides, so we have a team of guides that will be in the airport in the periods where we have Chinese passengers going through. This is very, very popular. You can hide these guides in advance. So if you go on cph.dk, our website, you can already hide them before you come. But furthermore, they will be in the airport and they will be helping the Chinese people to find what they would like. Mostly what actually the Chinese people would like is to shop, especially high-end luxury, or it could be Echo, which is a Danish shoe brand, or some of the local favorites, George Jensen's. So we help them to guide them through. And finally, we work with external partners. 5 times a year, we have a very big auction of fur in Copenhagen. Each time we would have approximately 600 Chinese people traveling through. So we go to the auction, we offer them a rebate, a small plastic card where they can have 15 euros off if they go shopping in Copenhagen Airport. We would even offer them to do online shopping before they come in the airport at the auction. This is another way of catching them. So these are some of the things that we do. And I could tell more stories about what we do and why we do it towards the Chinese passengers, but really it is a very different group of people compared to what our Scandinavian shop employees, they know about doing service. And we have great examples where our shop employees felt that they just couldn't communicate correctly with these Chinese passengers, and they felt that at one stage, one told me, well, I felt they were kicking me with a shoe, and actually they were just trying to get in contact with the lady. So these kind of things, and sometimes some of the Echo store, which is very popular for Chinese passengers coming to Copenhagen, they would probably only have 2 or 3 pairs of exact shoes in size 34, 35, or 36, which is really far too little, because when the Chinese they come in groups, and she would have to have 20 pairs, because the small sizes, of course, they go quickly with the Chinese. So anyway, lots of things I could tell, but thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Lisa. It's fascinating to hear already at this stage how airports can adapt their offer and their wayfinding signs, absolutely everything, to a particular passenger group. Next up, we've got Fiona, who's going to chat us through some other trends for the future to keep an eye out for. So over to her.
Even lower. Well, good afternoon. My name is Fiona Hamilton. I'm from Jones Lang LaSalle, and I head up, along with my director colleague, Tori, Transport Airport Global Infrastructure Group. We specialise in working alongside people like Lisa in the airport world on a global basis. Today, I really want to kind of touch upon what the consumer is looking for and how that's influencing the changes that we're seeing in our airports today, which actually is very exciting. I don't know how many retailers are here today, but this presentation is particularly geared towards the retail market and to explain the changes that are occurring. But first, before maybe I put it in context, and a lot of you will know some of these global trends that are occurring, but there are kind of 5 key trends, and my research advisor sitting in the background, so I better get them right or I'm going to get into major trouble. But basically, one of the biggest trends we've got is that, of course, we know that online is our new oxygen, and without there's 7.3 billion people in the world today, and there's 10.6 billion mobile devices. It's not going to go away. Consumers demand that we have basically Wi-Fi access at every point, whether that's from the parks to rooftop gardens to homes. It's very important. Why? Because this is how we live our life. So now if you wander around here today, you see everybody with phones up at their faces. Most of us socialise more, or getting close to nearly 50%, although it says 40 there, but that's slightly out of date, online. It's the way we do our business, it's our concierge, it's our private butler, but it's also the way that we keep in touch with our friends. And a very important thing that Lisa's picking up on is that in airports, we really need to connect into our passengers, how they travel through the airport, and link into the information they can share with us, because that, as we as retailers know, is like gold dust. The more information we get, the better retailers we can be, the more we can sell. The other one is really about the kind of urban, sophisticated consumer that's out there in the retail market. We're all very sophisticated, and why, in the past decade, when I first started looking at airports, I'm not saying that we didn't embrace what the consumer was looking for, but we were certainly lagging behind. Today, I don't think that's the case, because one size doesn't fit all. We've got to make changes, and I think airports are becoming very good at that. And if we want to keep what I'd call customer delight, we have to move. This is a really interesting trend, and a lot of people go, well, I wouldn't put that as one of the top 5 kind of global trends, but it's called the integrity trend, which really relates to the fact that consumers are more than brand, design, innovation. They actually really want the retailers today to give them something more, have a social conscience, have a social purpose. And this trend's very, very important. One of the ones, and it links on to some of the things we're going to come on to about social media and so forth and how that's going to work in airports, is that I was in New York not that long ago, and I don't know if anyone's here from Domino Pizzas, but they did a live time streaming in Times Square, which was basically Twitter feedback, Facebook feedback from all their consumers, which one minute they were kind of slagging off that there wasn't enough pepperoni pizza coming out of Boston, the next minute how they loved the service they got in small downtown New York. But what it was really to kind of engage with their customer and say, look, we're a very open and honest retailer. Actually, when you looked at some of the evidence that came out of it, there was quite a lot of negativity to be fair in there, but their sales rose, which really says that people want to hear the truth. They don't want to be duped anymore. Oh, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. And of course, the trend that we all are very much aware of, and Christina picked up on that, is that we're all becoming older. I think it's something like, I think in the next few years, over 50% of the European Union will be over the age of 65. And in America, every 7 seconds, someone turns 50, thank goodness. But we're becoming more urban, which is more about the cities getting bigger. Again, that picks up on how sophisticated we are. The more urban we become, the more we expect, the more we change. And of course, Lisa again picked up on the emerging markets. That's not going to change. That's only going to get bigger and bigger. And that's not just China. It's the BRIC economies. It's right across the world. Well, this is how we started out in airport retailing, and this is where we've gone today. And I think more and more airports are realising that actually it's not just about passenger wayfinding. It really is about taking it on to the next level. It's about experience, and that's why you're seeing a lot of changes in airports. Oh, sorry, these shouldn't be in. These are. So how does this impact on trends that we're doing or we're seeing coming through airports? One of the biggest trends we're seeing at the moment is called transient. Now that really relates to kind of utilising as much space and with as much flexibility. One of the things that in airports and railway stations, we are space challenged. Also, transient does give us an opportunity to introduce new types of concept and new revenue opportunities. Transient, this actually, believe it or not, is an app store in Tokyo, which is a pop-up. But again, it gives new revenue. You're not actually selling necessarily product, but you are selling an offer. The more kind of traditional ones you'll recognise are the pop-up, the suitcase company, Muji to go, and Uniqlo are also doing the pop-up boxes. Now, again, it is all about, in the past, a lot of retailers got concerned about how they logistically serve into airports. How do you get your stock through security? And it just seemed an awful lot of a hassle. But because of the mobile connectivity that we have these days and the way that we're all operating, you actually don't even need to have the stock there. Uniqlo's idea is you smartphone it, order it, click, goes to home. And that's becoming a big trend in airports. But pop-ups doesn't even just relate to, or transient doesn't even just relate to retailing, it relates around events. This was Heathrow when the Olympics were on in T5. We had a pop-up restaurant concept. And again, in Tokyo, M&M's, again, embracing this thing that consumers are sophisticated. They expect to have the same experience they have in the best malls around the world. They expect to have the same experience in airports. So it's not just about straightforward retailing. Another one, this is Helsinki, one of my favourite airports, and they really have got this transient offer down to a pat. Their CEO believes that as this airport has a lot of repeat customers through it, one of the ways to keep refreshing it is to introduce new offers all the time. This is Nike, a Nike store here, pop-up that's come through about 90 square metres. But it's an interesting one in that even within that transient concept, it changes every few months. So whether it's the football that's on, so the kit in it will be football. At the time when I was there, it was ice hockey. But again, they've picked up on that integrity trend because they're not just actually going, we're here and we're selling to you. But you know what, guys, we're going to give you a nice seat. You can connect into your Wi-Fi. And if you use our Wi-Fi, we'll give you special offers in our downtown retailing stores. Really, really interesting. And that changes. So even within transient, they're changing. One I really liked was the Angry Birds. Again, moving away from traditional retailing, moving into gaming, but using it as a pop-up to keep it fresh and keep something different. I just about fell down when I walked into Grand Central Station and saw this one. I don't know if any of you recognise who it is. It's a company called Target. And again, this is their idea of pop-up on a large scale, I have to say, not suited to every airport, but really interesting because again, you can roam around it, smart tag, buy, click, deliver home. And this, I think, is going to be the way forward for us. Other things about transient concepts within airports is that incubation. We have a lot of retailers, and I've been speaking to a lot of people today who've been saying, not sure if it's for us. Well, you don't necessarily need to go into a straightforward contract on the traditional contracts, because I know that initially for airport world scares a lot of retailers coming in. So pop-ups are a great way to start off. Kath Kidston started in T5 on a pop-up incubation and is now in a full-time store. So it's a great tester for both the airports and for the retailers coming in. Also a great format for trying out new ideas. I don't know if any of you have been out to Abu Dhabi airport, but this actually isn't the ones that are there, but they're like sleep boxes, like coffins, which is quite scary. You kind of pull a roller shutter, but for $20 you can go and lie down for an hour. Much better than draping across a chair as you see in traditional airporting land. The top office zones as well being put in, so that makes it easy for us to continue to work as well as spend money. And I personally quite like this one, a virtual bartender, so when it's all getting a bit too much, you can hit yourself with a quick shot, so there doesn't actually need to be anyone there to attend you. And I'm sure you're all probably feeling like that at the moment, so apologies for dragging on. Another trend that's coming through is called hybridization, which is really where we see retailers being quite sophisticated in doing a mix-up match. So again, this is picking up on that trend I was talking about, how our retailers are becoming our consumers are becoming so sophisticated. They really are looking for something a bit more, it's no good just giving them normal or what they've seen for the last 10 years. They want to really sex it up. Let's make this really different. And this is this trend. This actually is a Starbucks store that's kitted out like a library. So, it's moving away, it's branding, but at the same time it's moving away from branding. Same time, this one is in Seoul, and it is, I'm trying to remember the name of it, it's basically a mobile phone store where they have incorporated a coffee shop, and these funny little pods you see above them are to test the mobile phones out so that nobody can actually hear you. So one of the things I think about being coffee shops, quite nice to overlisten, but there you go. They want to keep it quiet and private. And then, of course, you say brands, they do it by mixing up brands. Kipling Group, they are very, very good at changing their offer depending on the airport, the passenger segmentation, the pax number of the airport. They'll change it to the profile. And they're getting quite sophisticated in terms of how they do that. This is one that we were recently involved in Gatwick, where Jamie Oliver has gone in and put 3 concepts in one. So it can also be a mix-up of different concepts to actually deliver that hybridization. That's something different. And again, this fits with this profile about us all changing. This is Generation Flex. There's something for everybody within that concept. This is TAV in Turkey, where, again, this is about mixing up different forms of experiences. The TAV lounge is absolutely beautiful, but it mixes in spa, sporting areas, Turkish deli areas. There is something, again, for everybody. They're trying to cover as many offers as they can. And, of course, Schiphol is one of our favourites that we all know, where they use hybridization to transfer their hub passengers as they travel through library areas, through rested seating areas, again, through parenting rooms, but all with a kind of very global feeling to it. It's really saying you're in Holland, and even though you're travelling on to Dubai, you're going to get a little bit of Holland. Now, we were touching upon this because I think Copenhagen's a really good example where Glocal has branded the airport and the experience there. This is McDonald's, who are, of course, in Indian airports introducing vegetarian restaurants to, again, suit the clientele and the culture there. Barcelona, we have a Gaudi style experience. So again, saying you're in Spain, you're going to know you're in Spain and you're going to experience this. This is Starbucks, actually, and believe it or not, in Tokyo. And again, Starbucks are very much moving away from this traditional image, and they are kind of dealing with what their customer expects. My experience is when you go out to the Far East, retailing is on steroids out there. It's great. It's a fantastic experience, and they're matching the customer's needs and desires by giving them what they want. Does anyone know what this is? Can you guess? Oh, well done. It's a subway, but again, it's not subway as we know it. It is a hydroponic subway. So they're picking up on the integrity trend by giving something that's good for you. They're looking after you. They're taking it on to the next level. And again, another kind of global experience we're seeing in a lot of airports is where local traders, or local heroes as we like to call them, will come in with new offers. This is Mutterland in Berlin, who have created an exceptional offer. And this is taking it on again. I don't know if any of you have been out to Edo Street in Hyena, where basically they've created a little bit of Japan, kitted out with the highest level of craftsmanship. But of course, you've still got your Prada, Gucci's and all the rest of it there, but you feel as though you're walking around Japan. So when you go into that airport, you know you've landed in Japan. And as I say, Schiphol, the number of fridge magnets and tulips and bits of Dutch things I've picked up on the way to Dubai, is, my family think, you've been in Holland? No, I was actually just travelling through to Dubai. But again, they're doing it very well, that you know where you are and you know what the experience is that you're going through. This is Incheon Airport, where they do their global experience, but they're doing it through the social media side. So what they're trying to do is through apps, cultural experience you can download, again, taking a little bit of the country away with you, and the hope that they can entice you to come back. Chicago here, do it through sustainability. We're the hip kind of town. They're one of the first guys that actually started this type of offer. This offer supplies in a number of restaurants in Chicago, and of course it's from their own garden, so it ticks a lot of the integrity boxes. And of course, again, one of my very favourite airports, I have to say, Lisa, Copenhagen, who do it so well. And they have done it in many different ways through branding. The last time I was there, in fact, you had your pop-up, the normal Michelin star pop-up. It was cute. It took me half an hour to get through a queue to sit down, and it was amazing. And these concepts, we're not even seeing these in our shopping centres yet. And I think they're very, very exciting and something to watch in the future. I'm actually going to pass you across to, I've probably done enough talking, to one of my colleagues, Tori, who actually specialises in mobile, social media and Wi-Fi, and we do a lot of work for airports in that area. And Tori's going to take you through how we can embrace this changes, and this is where the big change, and I think the really exciting part of changing is going to come in airports, as we actually go more into virtual and not even bringing stock into airports, delivering before we get it. Sorry if I pass on to you. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. No, okay, I think as we've already touched upon, mobile, the way people are interacting, the way they are networking, the way they're communicating with everybody, the mobile device is absolutely critical to everything we're doing, and especially from a retail perspective. And what you'll find is things like Apple Passbook and the Google Wallet are going to become absolutely critical, and people, it's where you're going to store all of your airline tickets, your train tickets, all of your coupons, your loyalty cards, and that's the way that you will transact. It's also the way you can scan things like QR codes, and you can look at things in terms of online reviews, and actually become part of that tribe, so you can really see what people like, and you can like it too and buy it. The virtual wall, this is actually Tesco in a train station in Korea, but we were involved with the trial at Gatwick from a virtual wall. So you order it on your smartphone and it's delivered to your house. And again, the mobile wallet, so it's very much that near-field technology. So you just won't need your cards anymore. It'll all be done through your phone. And again, Copenhagen, rather accidentally, we do seem to be paying homage to them rather a lot. But this is an augmented reality app, so you can wayfind your way around the airport. It will tell you what offers are on. You can find the retailers you want to find, and all through your smartphone. Again, we are now in the world of instant gratification, so you want to be able to, if something's annoying you, you want to be able to tell people straight away, and that's what you do. You scan the QR code, and once they get 10, that's it. Someone goes down and they clean the loos, or they deal with the issue. Again, you can push offers to people just by scanning the QR codes. I'm just going to skip through that one. Price comparison, I mean, Dixons do it, but I think this is integral. We do this all the time now, and it's actually second nature, I think, in terms of reviewing, and Dixons are very good at that. They promise that they will beat any price. And again, this is all about communications. This is very Gatwick focused, but they're very good at how they communicate with people, and not just adults. You can download stories for your children. If they've got hoardings up, you can find out what's going on, and you can really learn about what's happening at the airport and actually understand what's happening. And moving on from that, this is very much focusing on multi-channel. I mean, airports are very they're limited in space, the shops are generally a lot smaller, and you've got people for a relatively short time. So the whole multi-channel approach is absolutely critical. People don't really like trying on clothes at airports, so actually, why do you need to have the clothes there? You can offer the full range through an iPad, online, and they can buy and it can be delivered home, or they can pick it up on their way back through. This is quite a fun one, actually. So this is, the top one on the left is actually CNA in Brazil. And again, this comes back to social media, belonging to that tribe. And those are actually Facebook likes. So you can find out what's the most popular product, and because we all want to belong to the same tribe, you can then go and buy it. The ability to pre-order, but also collect on return. We feel that this is very underutilised at the moment, and people really aren't. People don't really understand it, and I think it needs to be communicated better, because it means we think it would actually change the way people shop at airports completely. Digital assistants, this is quite fun. This is actually in Portugal, and these are, instead of having someone there telling you what that fragrance smells like, who's going to like it, what they do, you can find out which fragrance you like, and then they will tell you which ones are like it in terms of similar notes. And again, the Portuguese airports are really good. You can pre-order up to, I think it's about 7 days in advance, up to about 4 hours before you fly. So you can pre-order, and actually what you find is some of this stuff doesn't actually even need to touch the airport. It can be delivered to your home. Fee, shall I hand back over to you for Anywhere Commerce? Yeah. Okay. Okay, just quickly wrapping up. Anywhere Commerce, we can flick through this. So in terms of vending and different elements. So just how you get your product out there. Branded spaces, this is very much about the experience. Trivertising. So just what people are doing. Yeah, we'll just click through. And again, this is just on the emerging markets, which Lisa's already picked up on. Okay,
fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. I realise we're running slightly over time, so I'm going to hand over to Stefano. We've heard a lot about airports and how airport retail is going to be shaped by the future. Now we've got a completely different perspective, which is interesting, particularly with the advent of high-speed rail. So please welcome Stefano.
Thank you. Very tough goal. Last presentation during the happy hour. Okay. I'll try to talk about innovation travel retail at railway stations. Fiona showed how the world is changing, and it could be a threat to the traditional travel retail business, but could be also an opportunity. We believe it could be an opportunity at the end of the day, and that's why Grandi Stazioni is investing in innovation, particularly from the design and technical solutions, then in the process of the tenant selection, because we put also an innovative model of tenant selection. We are investing in digital media, and we are also investing in the web solution in order to engage customers not only with the retail areas but also on the web. Actually agreeing on the statement that even if we are managing wonderful buildings, but we agree on the statement that whatever the business are you in, you should be obsessed for innovation. Some figures about our company. We are managing the 14th largest railway stations in Italy, but we are also operating abroad because we handle Prague Central and Maria Skelas stations in Czech Republic. We are covering more or less the more important cities all around Italy. We handle around 700 million contacts each year. We have an investment program of about 900 million euros of accumulated investment. We have a turnover of 200 million euros. We handle 1.5 million square meters all over the 14 railway stations. So we are running at present moment 500 shops, and there will be 900 at the end of the refurbishment program. Some figures about the introduction of the high-speed trains in Italy that had a big impact on our business. The high-speed train passengers have been increased by 75% from high-speed introduction in 2009 in Italy. The shares of Rome-Milan, that is the most important track in Italy, passed from 40% in 2009 to 66%. So that is, as I said, a huge impact also on the profile, because currently we are handling a target of customers that is increasing also in terms of quality. First of all, we handle people that are socially active. The concentration index with respect to the Italian population are very interesting because, for example, for the high income level and the high use of credit cards, the concentration index are far more from 2.5 times the Italian average population. This kind of target have a high use of internet, a high level of education. The index is more than 3 times the Italian population average concerning the high-speed target. And in terms of the general figures, we cover the 16% of the Italian population. That means that 8.2 million single visitors per year, so that becomes 700 million people by the frequency. Some other figures about the Grandi Stazioni target around the 14 railway stations. They are interested in new technologies. The indexes shows the difference from the Italian average. They're interested in new technologies. They are interested in novelties in many products, and they have a nice spend also for fashion apparel. They shows also a very interesting behavior with respect to the consumption of technology. This figure shows that they are very well informed, they are demanding, and they are also innovation oriented. They shows also the same attitudes also in food consumption, so not only with products and categories. So innovation is pursued across 4 main areas from a Grandi Stazioni model. We are making innovation in design and planning. We are also investing in retail and services, in media and in communication, which are the 4 main issues in which we believe we have to put investment for innovation. For the first issue, that is design and planning. We are investing, as I said, 900 million euros in refurbishing the stations, and we are making it by integrating the old values with the new elements. It comes out a very theatrical and very interesting environment in which shops are into generally a very important monument in Italy, so the general environment is very nice. But we are also not only investing in the layout, in the interior design, but also in new formats in terms of services, such as the new post point and the new baggage point format. So we transformed completely a basic format like the baggage point into a shop, so where you can have all the services related to baggage. Here it is, the chart. Thank you, boss. Which was the effect in the retail environment? We changed completely the positioning, so we have now in the station refurbished an high street positioning that really satisfied the kind of target that we have seen before. We dedicate around 50% of the spaces to retail, 30% of the space to food and beverage, and around 20% to general services that could be conventional and unconventional. We have gym, we have a spa, we have medical center, we have chemistry and drugstore, because you have to consider that more than 20% of our customers are non-travelers. So it's important for us also to diversify the services into a station, not looking only at the retail development, but also at services. So we currently handle over 500 shops. The total service dedicated to retail and services is over 100,000 square meters. So the average is around 200 square meters per unit. The shop's turnover is around 400 million a year. It's interesting to look at the fact that in terms of categories, this is the example of Milan Central Station that we refurbished in 2010. We have more or less the same pictures that we have seen before for airports. So we are able to cover, because also of the quality of the target, more or less the same category mix that is present at the airports. And the customers is allowed to find all the kinds of products, also in terms of the depth of categories, also at stations. I was saying that innovation was set also about the process for tenant selection. So now we have from 5 years ago, we launched a program in which, first of all, we make the allocation process by market research on customers' need and behavior. Then we plan the ideal merchandising plan, and then we make the evaluation of tenants only by tenders, giving a very important weight to technical and industrial project, and then also about business plan and economic issues. Some examples about important brands that have chosen Station to open the first shop in Italy, such as Desigual. The first shop in Italy was opened in Milan Central Station. The same happened for Sephora, who opened the first shop in Italy in Rome Central Station. Some other figures about development at Station: we have the biggest bookshop in Italy, 2,500 square meters. We have a new format from Autogrill just dedicated to Milan Central Station, which is a benchmark now in Italy for travel retail. We have a shop from Media Market, a Saturn shop that was judged by the management of the company as the best in the world chain. We have also the first spa and the first fitness center into a railway station. Differentiation of the offer is not only on retail but also on services. As I said, we have a Rome termini and a business incubator. So our premises are also dedicated to support the growth of startups and develop enterprises. 1,500 square meters in Rome are dedicated to this very interesting business incubator that probably will be also developed in other stations of the network. The same approach is going to be adopted also for the other developments. We are now launching the next months the new high-speed station in Roma Tiburtina, which will be 18,000 square meter development. We are going to launch at the end of 2014 a new gallery connected with the subway in Naples, with the commercial area of more than 6,000 square meters. We launched the last year the completely restyling the building of a new mezzanine in Rome Termini, which is a huge work in the most important of our stations. And we are also projecting the new development of Bologna high-speed stations. So we are going to adopt this innovative way of doing business also in the new developments, of course. How do we think to engage customers? Not only with, as I said, with the retail area developments, but also by the development of the digital. So we are also turning to digital coherently with the new positioning, both by the web offer and by the new interactive equipments. From the web point of view, we have some benchmarks that are really interesting because for example, in Milan Central, we have 10% of interaction rate, which is more than Grand Central in New York, which has 8%, which is of course a benchmark today. We are not developing only services and promotions by web. We are also putting new digital equipment into stations. We have already 1,100 screens, digital screens in our stations. We have 10 video walls. We are finishing the development of 158 interactive digitotem that we use not only for advertising but also for the examples that you should before to buy products, to make promotions, and to make wayfinding into stations. This is to complete the approach. This is also completed by events. that we launch into stations, so events, and to have the station alive during all the day long. For example, we have concerts, we have lesson promoted for when testing. The aim is not only having a commercial gallery, a retail area, but also something that is alive all day long. The conclusion is about the fact that the position of our stations in the center of town and the new travel attitudes are providing stations with the opportunity to play a key role in both in the urban development and in the travel retail business. So we believe that in this context, innovation represents a key success factor. And in our case, new developments have to be integrated with stations' original mission, which is to serve travelers and citizens at top international standards. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Stefano. I'm sure, as you'll agree from these presentations, travel retail is a very dynamic place to be at the moment from a brand and retailer perspective, and landowner and landlord. I'm very aware also that we've run quite considerably over time, but does anyone have any questions you'd like to put to our panel on anything you've heard today? Nope. In which case, thank you again to all three of our panellists. I have been reminded that there's a coffee session, I think, still going on through those doors over there. So do feel free to hang around and grab a cup of coffee before you leave the building. And thank you so much for coming along today. Thanks, everybody.